Welcome to a Friday edition, because it's the only edition right now of Anytime with Ken and Alden. We could do this on a Tuesday. You don't know. You don't know. I'm Ken. That's Alden. And we're in your faces today. My camera's a little closer than normal. You're at your Alden angle.
I have my own angle?
Yeah, you have an angle. Do you think you don't have identifiable angle? I like your angle.
I never realized that.
You got the mic. You got the sock.
Yeah.
Shield.
What sock? Oh, this?
Shield. Yeah. I guess it's not a sock.
Calling it a sock is so much worse. It sounds awful.
It does. It does.
Sock on.
Yeah. I don't know what my angle is. My angle is sad.
I think I like our even two heads. And everything. I think it's good.
Yeah. One of my pet peeves is Bupenheim says, "Oh, you know you have an angle." One of my pet peeves in life, because why not have a petty pet peeve, is people who don't understand Headroom. This is proper Headroom. That's how you set up a shot.
Gap, and then a little,
like on a network television news show.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because we've seen the evolution in internet media in particular, and game streaming is huge for this, where and I'll lift mine, the top angle has become so popular. Like getting the upper corner of someone's face.
I like it, but I'm okay. Yeah, right. It should change. Like, I'm literally saying this is network news interview style Headroom. But you'll get some folks, because a lot of folks use laptop cameras, and it's based on how many books you have. So you get the 5 feet of headroom, or you get the chin cut off. Why did I bring that up?
I don't know. I think it's because there's always that period of time where we transition from our pre-show conversation to knowing we're being received. You had a moment of heightened awareness right there.
I do. It just, but I'm trying to change it. Like, I have some sort of ear monitor device, and I've tried to pull off, because I've now, if I'm telling you, if you do not have goddamn headphones or an ear monitor device on your podcast, I don't consider you a professional. And I don't care if you're Sam Roberts. Like, I don't care if you're who you're. I get so grumpy about it. And then I've realized I'm going to be on an island by myself while everyone's just enjoying life. So I've let it go.
That's your
I've let it go.
That's your tiny microphone thing.
Yes, you have that.
First, I thought we could fight back against it. Now, like, all the major trades and publications are.
Nah, it's everyone. Yeah,
I
get your take. I get their take. I get the money, gear, cheap, blah blah blah. But yeah. Anyways, So I just have to. I have to admit that I get grumpy about little technical things, because I was trained that way. I went to school for this stuff. For 2 years, and I left for my radio career. Dumb decision.
It's hard in a lot of ways to watch everything that we were trained to do just get torn apart and made like into a choose your own adventure, but not in the fun way. Like, you could be like, I'm a trained broadcaster. People could be like, oh yeah, my friend Chet's a broadcaster. He's got and it's like, no, he's not.
Someone to my face. I'm not friends with him anymore. I literally went home and muted him. They had been a guest on my show, and they were like talking. We were just talking about things, and like, yeah, but you're a little bit too. You have to admit, you're a little bit too radio. I was like, ha 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 ha. Went home and just deleted them.
You know what I love is that means there's a part of the story that's missing, and that's Ken driving home and knowing he's gonna mute this man. Like, it's
wasn't a man
on your mind.
Wasn't a man.
I assumed that was wrong of me. You're right. It's such a broy thing to throw out that I did think it was a guy. That's really funny. So you're thinking of muting this person, just like to radio as you crank up like whatever you're listening.
I know how to host a show with momentum and the least amount of dead air, and I personally don't care about ums and ands. I say too many of them too. I've always said that's how we talk. It's whatever. I wish I didn't say them, but I say them. Anyways, I've had it's been a tough week, and you're gonna get to some real stuff here, and I want to support you what you're doing here and saying, because it's coming from your heart, and I understand it, and I'm there with you on it. Before we get even too real, but it's just there's an energy thing going on in the world this week. I think we're all feeling a little grumpy.
No, I was absolutely, even outside of geopolitics and domestic strife. That something is off. Like, I've had difficulty like watching things. Like, I I'm usually if I turn on a movie, I'm finishing it in one sitting. I've been getting up a lot. I felt really antsy,
Agitated.
agitated. There's like an
Okay.
air of like sadness in the air, like group chats
Mm-hmm.
that I'm in, everyone checking in, just like work is beating everyone down. And
Yeah.
that's not a feeling I associate with April. It feels very winter
Yeah.
right now in a lot of
It's
ways.
sing Gordon Lightfoot's Winter Song there,
Yeah.
as covered by Sarah McLachlan. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. So, yeah, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the news, a lot of stuff to follow, as we always say, and it's just the frustrating angles with the Supreme Court on the Trump immunity case of them just kind of like But also, I want to be fair. There's also there's a thought that they're not necessarily ready to support that guy. It's that they're like the courts below them didn't really provide and establish enough framework for this conversation. There's some detailed stuff there that I want to acknowledge. But the battle in Arizona for abortion rights, it's just that, and then we got protests all around America here in our college campuses, and it's affecting a lot of folks, and there's a lot of different views, and I have different experiences with it. I want to acknowledge up top than others, and you, but you're affected by it, and I wanted you to talk about it, and you want to talk about it, about what's going on, man.
Yeah, I have this overwhelming feeling of we talked about this a little bit in our previous episode if people want to go back after or whenever
Mm-hmm.
about thinking about the future, thinking about change and life and death. And I just know in my soul that we are living in a time where my grandchildren, if I have them, are going to think the same way that we thought
Mm-hmm.
about like how are you all dumb enough? How are you stupid enough? How are you so easily led astray? Um, I mean, everything that's happened at Columbia or in
Mm-hmm.
Texas or at USC, whose graduating class will now not graduate, which will mean, since of their
Yeah.
age, they will not have graduated high school or college because of now
Right.
pandemic and this cowardly cancellation. So we are witnessing the mass punishing of not just students but also faculty, um, and the press.
Mm-hmm.
Watching cameramen for huge organizations like CNN and Fox get yanked and thrown to the ground and beaten, um,
Mm-hmm.
in flagrant, blatant First Amendment violations. Which like it's just like it's not surprising. I mean, I was there personally in a couple George Floyd murder
Mm-hmm.
protests. So I have, in as much as like I have like a novice level experience of being in these
Mm-hmm.
situations.
You were there.
Um, but and I remember that anxiety, and I remember wondering like, am I about to get like hit with a rubber bullet or a gas canister or anything like that? And I
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I remember it, but I also remember like the righteousness of it. So like I really am proud of these kids for not taking it, but also why is it like we talked a little bit off air, like why does it even need to be a situation of people marching, like watching the actual marching, the formations in LA for a sit-in? Like for it's not like what,
Mm-hmm.
why? Like I just, why is such a nebulous question, but it's like when Stoneman Douglas happened, when Uvalde happened, when all these things happened, going back to, Sandy Hook, of course, of which these college kids are of that
That
class.
age. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like why there's always this debate of like, well, how do you expect them to run in? How do you expect them to run in and handle something like that? But they seem to be very motivated to run in
Mm-hmm.
and stop something like this. And then you have people like Greg Abbott who are Nazis. I don't know if the YouTube algorithm is going to reward us for me saying that someone's a Nazi in 9
Oh,
minutes and 30 seconds
yeah. It's
in. But
probably done, but it's all right.
yeah, but it's like, yeah, if you aren't one, you sure do love them.
Mm-hmm.
Him ordering these crackdowns and wanting these students and faculty to be ripped off of the grass and everything, but has no issues with any of these other groups. It's the same logical train as, doing the censure on Congresswoman Tlaib, but then
Mm-hmm.
allowing Hawley to just walk around, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
after encouraging the insurrection.
Right.
And it's things like that. And the problem, the reason why it's so just maddening is that it is outright Orwellian. Like this is the stuff that when we were in English class reading 1984, and thinking like, believing the lies of your eyes and all those classic quotes and everything. We're watching that right now. Like, you get a footage of a mariachi band singing songs of peace on Colombia, and then cut to the coverage of that moment, and they're like, the violence of these. It's like, what are you talking about? Same with the whole, like, and again, should acknowledge neither of us here are Jewish, but the whole, these protests are anti-Semitic. What about Jewish Voice for Peace being one of the key organizations in the world right now that he's very public about it, so I feel fine quoting him, and he's a friend. Daniel Jose Older, prominent Star Wars author, is Jewish, and he's like, you're telling me what's anti-Semitic. It's just really, really horrifying, and I don't want to monologue about it forever. But it's like, yeah, we're gonna end up in a Kent State situation. Set your clocks, because they will show that we've learned nothing. It will show that we've learned absolutely nothing. I don't want to see people in Central Park, posting their imagined photos. I don't want it. You've learned nothing. You don't get it. It's generational shame is setting in at this exact moment. And I'm glad you and I don't have kids. I'm glad we didn't do that. I mean, TBD on me, I guess, but
still time for you. I'm waiting for the scissors soon. Yeah, man. I want you to express what's going on. It feel like I said. I think protesting's in our blood and should be, right. And it's so funny how people, a lot of people attending January 6th were like, yeah, this is the spirit of 76 and all that stuff and crap. And so it's not a both sides thing. I think this is important stuff going on and always will be. As far as, I feel for the loss of hope. I do think this is all, you got to stay the course. I was telling you, don't underestimate. I've been in not the other side of things, but I've been in those situations as someone in uniform trying to keep thousands of people from doing damage, and some of it is, property protection, which is pretty trite in the face of the issues. I told you offline, I'll repeat, like, don't underestimate the joy those in authority get out of the violence. I don't think you do, but a lot of it is, how could they? Because it's fun and they want to, and they have names for it. I've been around those conversations. That's a problem too. But I do think I'm going to use it. To me, the protests are performative in a good way. Like meaning this is what needs to happen. And I don't want folks like you to lose the hope on this issue or others. But you know what I mean by that? Where this is what is supposed to happen. This is what you go there for. And now attention is on it. Now the attention's going to be and our big topic today, because for every Daniel Jose Older tweet that you're talking about, I've got a lot of friends on in my circle who are like Jewish Democrats who are absolutely throwing water on these protests and just want them removed. And it's weird, it's weird to watch these little. We pick this, we pick that, we pick that. Yeah. And I was telling you, and I'll finish my like this is not trite or glib as well. Like, I look at the French protesting is literally what they do on Tuesday. And I was telling you of a conversation I had when I was in Paris, and I was joking. I don't want to be considered the American who went to Paris for 2 days and comes back worldly. Not the case. I'm just had this great conversation over there with two Frenchmen, two guys who were, and I was like, the protests are literally blocks away. And he's like, yeah, that's what we do. One of them was like, I don't even agree with them. The other one was like, yeah, it'll be go for a couple of days. And I don't mean to say that they didn't care about the issues. It was just this like, yeah, we're upset and we're exercising our right and we should be able to. And over here you got like, folks in my parents' circle who are just like clutching the pearls over, and they're protesting. Yeah, listen.
But that, and it's like, no disrespect, of course, to your parents or anyone in that age group, but it's like hi, Mrs. Knapsack. But they were
the Ken stage age. They were
exactly.
The Ken stage age. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is that, when you talk about the learning, it's like, how could they? It's like, well, I mean, like, I'm only 28 and I've seen my fair share I've seen people take to the streets. I mean, just in the last 8 years, we had some of the most iconic protest iconic with a gravity to it, not iconic in the same way that like
like one that's gonna be listed on an article. Here's the
like,
top 8 iconic protests.
No, exactly.
But I know what you mean. Kent State's a big one.
So.
Detroit, 1968. Like yes,
Detroit,
Boston
then,
Tea Party, whatever.
That old chestnut, the Boston Tea Party. We had March for Our Lives after Stoneman Douglas. We had the great march on Washington with pink hats as far as the eye could see, and we've had Floyd, and like we've been around, and every time we waste ink and time being like they're holding signs and singing. It's like the Grinch. They're singing, like it really is like so wild. And it's like, yeah, you're right. Like the good side of performance, like it is meant to disrupt. It is using privilege. These kids are not being starved or bombed, but that's the use of your privilege. And like sometimes it goes into areas where it's like, all right, well, we can start to pick apart the nuances, like art protests, or pick apart the nuance of blocking the airport lanes, where it's like, okay, well, maybe someone's family member died and they need to fly right now.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's why when I'm talking about the French approach, I just mean all that's there, and there's these caveats. I don't want this to come off as any pushback to you, but like on the day of the biggest George Floyd march in LA, I had on my Facebook page, I was laughing. I had friends down at the protest who were like bleeding with tear gas shots. I also had friends in LAPD who had brick marks here and blood pouring down their face, and that you could get lost in that. That can hide the issues. What you're talking about, like I've already seen the think pieces and articles, because guess what? There's some people at the protest who either don't know why they're there, or just there for the fun, and some who maybe are anti-Semitic, and they're on camera saying something, and then we all, not you and I, but then we have this tendency to make one of those bits the whole story. To the point of the protest. Like there's also, for every anti-Semitic chant, because there's also a coalition of very diverse protests. You know what I mean? Like,
Mehdi Hassan, who left NBC and now has his own company, I believe it's called Zateo. He was saying, there was one person at Columbia from the protest side that yelled, "Go back to Poland." One,
right? Yeah,
on record.
One.
But approximately 40 saying, "Go back to Gaza." But the "go back to Poland" it carries that same weight. Like, no, it doesn't. So I mean, I want to bring up Eli's comment here. Eli from the In a Galaxy podcast also runs our trivia league. How exactly do college officials and government officials think Martin Luther King Jr. fought for civil rights? Exactly. Well, that's the thing, Eli, is that they have the white person's favorite MLK in their mind, not the actual MLK. It's the MLK that people like Meghan McCain tweet about.
They have half the quote. Sometimes literally have half the quote.
Yeah, sometimes literally. Yes, exactly. They only like the version of him that is palatable and comfortable and safe, which happens all the time. And I would like to make a pop culture recommendation for anybody watching. We're going to move into our main topic in a second after Mr. Ben Affleck. But X-Men 97 is... I make him sound like he's coming on the show.
Poor Ben's got to follow this.
Like, Affleck is in the wings, in the StreamYard right now. But X-Men 97 is coming out right now, and everybody would do well to watch that if you have any interest at all, especially in that old cartoon, because it could not be more timely. Like, it could. I'm honestly surprised. Like, I know Bob Iger doesn't watch cartoons. When he just pulled his whole like,
he's a villain in there.
We shouldn't be prioritizing messages. We should just be telling fun stories. And then this show comes around, and you've got like Magneto talking about leaders becoming terrorists, and there's a bombing and all this stuff. Like, it's like heavy stuff.
But that's an interesting side note of I really think that speaks to also him having to almost lie to investors to win that war, which I'm not defending him or that. It's just like the messy situation, the messy capitalism of it all.
But it's
crazy.
Yeah. In short, it's gross. It's it's uncomfortable to talk about, but engage in it to the best of your ability. I know I've exhausted my bandwidth this week. I've had some moments of like getting shaky and having to be like, I'm gonna go play a video game. Like, I'm gonna go walk around. Like, there's a game coming out, a Shire simulator, where you could just be a hobbit, and like, I think that's the move. And there's a lot of different stories, like Ken said. There's a lot of different things that become the whole. But in particular, I want to shout out Carolyn Folan, who's the Emory University economy professor, who also happens to be married to the dean of admissions. So I feel like this is not over. And who just went to ask, what are you guys doing? And then two grown-ass men, who I'm supposed to, according to a lot of people, consider to be brave, slammed her into concrete. Her glasses flew off. She got arrested, and then she got charged with battery. So whenever someone tells you there's a justice system, remember, it's a legal system. It is not necessarily a justice system. And so, yeah, if you're an adult out there working at one of these schools and you stood up for the kids, like, you're doing it right. It's been really cool to see. That's been cool to see.
Find the hope where you can find the hope, buddy. Yeah, I got no words to console you or those drastically affected by it, like you have been. Other than, hey, this is the circle. This will not change. Not talking about the issues, but I'm talking about history. The power of the powerless, or those speaking for others, and and find those rays of hope, and then don't be afraid to step outside and touch grass, which might transition to a conversation.
Touch grass. That's going to be serious. There's a serious note that's coming up here.
Serious note.
By the way, this is the plan. Thank you, the food in my beard. Upload my consciousness to the Shire video game. Yeah, that's the move. That's my idea.
I want to watch Dan play that. Check out his channel and blog, The Food in My Beard, because he might have some really great thoughts on Shire food.
Yeah, Dan, do a special for Food in My Beard about the Denny's Hobbit menu.
Yeah,
one of the great points in culture.
But
yeah, so this will come up more. I mean, there's a lot, like, anytime news is on pause right now, or else you'd be spending hours in this every week.
Yeah, I would.
But there's the whole, like, the 3 mass graves that total at 700, and a lot of the bodies are handcuffed and show signs, and the U.S.'s position is, well, we're gonna ask Israel for more info. So it's like, okay, like, I guess just like asking OJ for more information about what happened, that night. I guess is the logical rationale. So I try not to swear as much as I normally do on this show, just for algorithmic reasons. But yeah, fuck those people. Like, fuck that entire notion of, like, we are waiting to ask Israel. We're waiting to ask Israel. It's like, okay, like, I guess then every, like, abusive husband in America should get first take on what went down. But whatever.
And they often do. Yeah. I feel you on that. I'm very happy money's going to Ukraine and Taiwan. Taiwan's tremendously important. Don't anyone overlook that. That could actually destroy the world's economy fast.
And that's the thing, Taiwan,
apocalyptic way. But
the Congo,
also
like,
giving money. Yeah.
It's like the second you said, and Ukraine and Taiwan, it's like the floodgates of my mind opened up.
Yeah. But it's frustrated too. It's just the world keeps churning, and it's easy to get crushed underneath it emotionally if you're plugged in. And it's
who's
okay to unplug and play shy games.
Who's crushed emotionally? Ben Affleck. And because that's a segue in this business we call show. This is a big moment. The very first fan submitted Ben Affleck. Somebody, Maddie Gunner, DM'd me and said, I have an Affleck submission. And so I said, you know what? We're using it. And so this week's Ben Affleck. Oh, wait, Ken, tee it up. You got to ask the question.
Sorry. I was mesmerized that Maddie Gunner cares enough. I'm encouraged. Find hope. All right. As we do every week, come rain or shine, Alden, what Ben Affleck are we?
Per Maddie Gunner, musician extraordinaire, we have Ben Affleck from Glory Days, a film that came out 2 months and 1 week before I was born. This is 1995 Ben Affleck with hate across his sleeveless shirt. Look at his undercut and his goatee. It's fantastic. He looks so wrathful.
I'm gonna look at that.
This is the type of guy that, like,
it's by the way, it's Days with a Z.
Oh, it's Days. Yes. And you look at
Sam
Ben
Rockwell,
like,
Matthew McConaughey, Matt Damon, Brendan Fraser.
It's stacked.
Melissa Milano, French Stewart, Leah Remini, John Rhys Davies. This is a classic.
Crazy cast, man. Crazy.
Vinny
Generational.
Ramos. Oh my god.
Oh, it's so funny. God, what a time. Yeah, 95 Affleck looking like the type of dude that everyone dates once and like shapes them by being rude and ignoring them.
I live this era. I knew this guy.
You knew him, and you probably didn't like him. So that right there is our Affleck for this week. Thank you for the fan submission.
You know, I have problems with mustaches too. Just mustache. And he got a little chin there, man. Oh man.
Yeah. No, life before Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah. Maddie submitted it and said the guy your girlfriend told you not to worry about.
Ben Goffleck. Yeah. Ben Goffleck, Kingsport Cal, the barbed wire tat. If you have a barbed wire tattoo in this chat, you have to confess right now.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. And Kingsport Cal said, those guys changed, Ken. Some of them. You didn't, Cal. You didn't. The guy your boyfriend told you not to worry about.
Thank you, Buck.
There you go. It's all hilarious. There. Oh, there. God bless Ben.
Oh, indeed.
God bless the 90s. You weren't there, man. You weren't there.
I wasn't there. I didn't live any of it, man. Dude, Phantom Menace is about to come back to theaters and in literally a week. And
I'll be there.
I didn't get to to me that's history. Like I didn't get to live it until Attack of the Clones. So
it's insane to think 25 years because it's not a lot of time, but
no.
It's so much has changed, and and the memories, and from waiting at Toys R Us for the figures and waiting in line, and feeling the disappointment, but working through it over the course of 25 years. This is actually one of my favorite Star Wars films to watch. Like, it's been a journey, man. I can't wait to go back. I'll be there next Friday.
Yeah. Oh, Matty Gunner confirmed barbed wire tattoo on my leg. There it is.
Love it.
I knew it.
Love it.
I knew it.
All right. In the time we have left, this is a topic close to your heart.
Yes.
And we're going to dive in. I might have some questions for you. This is fantastic. I love this.
Yeah, please. So as you all saw, based on the title, are we two online? The answer, spoiler alert, is yes. Because see, in media, you phrase it as a question.
I want to acknowledge something. You did not phrase it to me as a question in your text. And I was like, I'm going to phrase it as a question because we all know the answer is yes. So let's go.
You gotta draw them in. Lots of people agree already. Absolutely, yes, So I'm glad you're all on board. Now this ranges, in truth, from completely unserious dumb stuff, all the way to stuff we talked about in our first segment. It goes all the way up to atrocities. So it's like it's big, and we're not gonna tackle it all in the next half hour.
Nor do we intend to.
Nor do we intend to.
This is a conversation.
Ever. Nor do we intend to ever on this show. Tackle everything. This is we're trying to start conversations, not end them. And we're just asking questions, bro. And the impetus for this, in part, and Ken, you immediately responded. You're like, "Is this because you got into a Twitter fight?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but like I'm kind of always in one." But it was just the combination. Yes, but the combination of these different things of like this experience I had on Twitter and this review I'm going to bring up that I made into a graphic, which I've had for a little bit on my phone. Everything happening at these universities, everything just made me realize like we fundamentally are broken in our brains. Like brain rot gets thrown around a lot in my generation of the brain rot set in. And it's like, I want to be clear. I'm not one of those people that's like, take me back. I want to be in the 1950s or 60s. Yeah. I'm not Taylor Swift wanting to go back to the 1830s either. Without all the racists, as her song says. Because I acknowledge the gains. I would not give up this internet. Let that be clear. Because people are going to see me on Twitter later and be like, wow, throwing stones.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm not giving it up. This is the biggest double-edged sword in human history. I truly believe that. And so I wouldn't want to walk back progress for marginalized groups. I wouldn't want to walk back the information age. I wouldn't want to walk it back. However, this is where we go. And so I'm going to start here in a light place. This is the framework that we're working with. So this tweet is one of Twitter's best tweets ever tweeted, ever twote. And I mean, we could easily end up saying worse words.
I actually almost did. I almost stopped it. I stopped it right before I said it.
And this tweet right here defines it all. Twitter, the only place where well-articulated sentence still get misinterpreted. You could say, I like pancakes, and somebody will say, so you hate waffles? No, bitch. That's a whole new sentence. What the fuck are you talking about? And that is truly the baseline of what we are talking about. If you tweeted right now, I really love, the sequels, or I really love the Dolphins, or I really love Fortnite, they'd be like, but you're not playing this game? But you don't like this? And it's like, I'm just expressing a thought, man. Like, I'm just putting out my thought. And yes, you can't account for tone. You can't account for tone, which is valid, and that opens up sort of.
But
go ahead.
Part of that tone thing is because I'm guilty of it too, especially in I sometimes late at night in the Force Center. We're blessed at Force Center, have a good fan base, but we're also struggling on YouTube and our podcast to build more. And I see Molly in the chat. Like, as Alex and Molly have a lot more comments to deal with. But like I sometimes we are very liberal with the ban hammer or this that. But then some nights 11 o'clock at night I'll see it a thing and I will just rip into someone, and then I realize I misread the tone because I'm just so used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll bring up my own example right now. I'll bring it up. There was a GIF on the account Star Wars GIFs.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. It's a GIF, and F the guy who created it and says it's a GIF.
Yeah, F the creator. Death of the author, even to GIFs. I almost said he wrote, like I was not myself. Like I was not indeed Alden Diaz at that Alden Diaz. It was a GIF of Kylo Ren fighting a Praetorian guard, serious real life stuff. And I said, imagine watching a scene this good and this gorgeous and this thematically resonant and thinking, I'm going to try to ruin this by picking apart the choreography for supposed flaws. Just imagine being that boring. Couldn't be us, me and you, the reader of this tweet with a little smiley face. I don't read that as very serious. I read it now with all the honesty I'm capable of mustering in the same voice that I typed it. You know what I mean? And I would like to point out that in this tweet, and again, this might be just like the obnoxious like English class brain in me, or like rhetoric or debate, but like
you didn't need to add English class to that sentence.
No, I guess I didn't. I specifically wrote people thinking I'm going to try to ruin this by picking apart the things. And then I said, imagine being that boring. So the words that boring, then in terms of sentence structure, it's like, okay, what is that boring? Well, I defined it. I put the words there of what I'm talking about. People picking things apart to try to ruin. Then I had people that shall remain nameless, but I will say they were not originally going to remain nameless. And then I remembered how exhausted I was this week, and then I needed to choose some measure of peace, being like, so you're using this to belittle people that disagree with your love of the film? And it's like, no, because belittle means to make a person less important than I am. I said that I thought picking things apart to ruin them was boring. When did that become the personal attack? And in that disconnect is the internet. Within that disconnect of like, I think this behavior is boring, and you say, why are you belittling me? Then I'm sorry you felt like I said you were boring, but I no longer am responsible for that, is how I feel. And I know you've had this, because Ken 10 years ago, significantly more active than Ken now in terms of the conversation. And it got to the point where, not to put words in your mouth, but it got to the point, my understanding, where you were like, this is not tenable anymore. It's not feasible.
It's not. I'm going to ask you one question.
Yeah.
I want you to be honest. I did see your tweet. You don't think it's like going into a bar, pushing people, and then when one hits you, you go, why is everyone fighting me here? I'm asking you honestly.
I don't. But here's the thing. I have done that. I have done that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I will do it again. Okay. So like that is absolutely a thing that I am guilty of. I'm saying that now. But
then maybe okay, continue.
Don't come up to me in the bar, punch me, and say, you said this. It's like, no. I said that is specific to, and then I even clarified again later in a different part of the conversation. I'm talking about rage hate people here. And then no.
Yeah, I don't like
you're belittling me because I disagree with you. No, I'm not. And if that's what you took away from it, then that's a comprehension issue. Like,
But
it
okay.
really is just a comprehension issue.
Do you think your past reputation also might have made it seem like you were pushing people in a bar?
No, that's absolutely valid.
No.
I think
Okay.
that's a huge part of it too, and that's something that I wrote down in our show rundown that we both totally read all the time. Is that
I read
brands over personalities, right? So it's like,
we're all
so that's
we're
the thing too.
all guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not pushing back on you.
No, you're asking valid questions.
I saw the exchange, and I had a little bit of the reaction of, you're like that flame throwing robot dog going through the forest, burning it, and wondering why it's on fire. And I think you and your pals are online too much. So I wanted to ask.
This is true, but I love that you said that, because that actually expands it out nicely.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't.
You know,
look
I love
at the
you.
Forest.
Okay.
I know. I don't look at the forest and say, well, why is it on fire? I get what happened. I get that the disconnect exists.
Sure.
But it should not be on me or any of us to account for it every fucking time. And that annoys me. The fact that you can't say a sentence and then people are like, you did not say IMO. You need to add in my opinion to that. It's like, no, I don't. I don't need to add it. I don't need to type exactly what I typed and say, people
caveats,
picking it apart to ruin it, and then add an asterisk that says, and if you aren't picking it apart to ruin it, I want you to know this is not addressed to you. And that is when my own age group and generation pushes me into a place I don't like to be in. A place that Nikki and I joke about. Nikki Kumar, I say Nikki like he's here, but Nikki Kumar from the Imperial Senate podcast, and I always joke, the young people are making me feel like an old conservative again. Because you know what I mean. Go for it.
Get ready, because it's only going to get worse for you. That I'm not saying you, I'm saying capital U.
All of us.
That's the natural thing, and you got to push past it. See, and what you're talking about, the opinion, I agree with that. We've lost a lot of that. That's one of the big downsides of the internet. And I want to go back to the start. As someone who was a kid in 1989, I'm glad we have the internet.
Yes.
I've said about this. You have to take the good with the bad, and I think there's so much good that it's cannot be taught. And I wouldn't want to go back. And just because, what am I going to do at the doctor's office? Though nowadays, when I'm in the doctor's office, this is what I do, Alden.
Oh yeah.
I don't grab my phone.
Taking it all in.
I don't. But that's just me. But other times I do. Because I don't want to be hypocrite. Anyways, I think I lost my train of thought. In terms of the opinion stuff, but I will say, I do think there needs to be an adjustment. We at Force Center have a pretty clear policy of the caveats, to the point we make fun of it, but we realize that we have to do that. That the idea that we were all taught, especially in my generation, that the strongest sentence is a declarative statement, and you don't put like "I think." But I think that day is gone, and I do miss that. But I think that's part of the problem too. And I'm not accusing you of stubbornly holding on to the past, because you weren't there in that past. I'm just saying, I do agree with you. You everything, it's an opinion, and it's taken as a declarative, factual statement by a lot of people. But that's just kind of where we're at, because our brains aren't made for this stuff. So I would say,
we're not
my pushback might be a little bit of, I think you do have to take that into account, and you do have to caveat yourself to death of because it's like, I have major problems with the TikTok generation in my head. Like to the point where I don't even say a lot of it online. And I do think we should be concerned that China's involved, but I also think we should also be concerned that Meta had lobbyists doing this and that everyone's still, and China could just buy there's all these things. As my friend didn't tweet, he put on Threads the other day, we wouldn't want Russia to own MSNBC, right? But even expressing that truth, I wouldn't want to do it, because I want to be like, my caveat. But I have a lot of problem with the TikTok generation being so aware of who they are in a way that my generation wasn't, but being so disinterested in fixing it. And I get real grumpy about that, going to your Nikki comment too, that I just have to realize that's where I'm at. Does that make sense? I'm rambling.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And you guys are great about that on Force Center. So you guys will burn a couple minutes being like, and this is just our take, and if you don't agree with it, that's great, and blah blah blah. And it's like, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe And this comment here, like Alden expecting strangers in the internet to possess basic comprehension skills. It's like, and again, I'll caveat that it's not that I'm saying that anyone that doesn't agree with me doesn't have basic, but I maybe that's what it is I thought we could make it better. Maybe it's that I thought by like having these conversations out there in any way over the past few years, like I thought we could demand through examples a better, more thoughtful space. And by being firm and being stalwart in this, that people would file in. And it's not. It's either the people that get it are tired and exhausted, or quite frankly, in some cases, just don't really have the backbone for that kind of fight, or the ability to, and that's great and that's valid. But the people that are the most confidently loud are the dumbest. And
it's Mark Maron's bit. I've referenced this before. I did this on my live show Wednesday on the Blathering. Mark Maron has a great bit on his last great stand-up special about a new kind of stupid, and it's not about all the people you're talking about or all your exchanges. It's just a general. They're emboldened now, and a lot of it is because of social media, and I think that's. I don't know if that can change. I don't think it will. But because I'll just go back to our darker conversation up top, but I'll just say what I said off air. Like you're rightfully you're rightfully disgusted about some of the stuff you've seen at the protests of police officers, and I'm like, it should be analyzed. But like they call it stick time. Like all my friends in LAPD back in the day were like, we got to go out to May Day on Saturday. Cancel my trip to the park, but whatever. I get to have some stick time. And meaning they're like, great, I get to go beat people up. That's fun. They don't care. It's fun. And you can't. It's no amount of great sentence structure will change that. And I think that's what you're running into that wall too, where you're like, but I said this thing, and it upset people. It always will. And I don't. I don't want you to. I don't want to say that hopelessly to you.
No, but I do want to be clear. It's not that it upsets people, and I think you and I are both, and I would imagine you have a lot of people like this, being in comic and writer circles. But it's not that it upset people. I don't want to be callous or rude when I say this, and if you're a new viewer of ANYTIME or anything, hearing me say this,
we don't have them.
Please, that's not true. I don't know it actually, but I hope not. I am not saying this in a flippant way, but like I really don't give a fuck if something that I say like upsets people. If it hurts and we're gonna have a conversation, I want to have that. But for something in our culture, like Star Wars to be like,
what's the difference between upset and hurt? I'm asking honestly.
I think for me,
I think there is. Yeah.
Upset has an air of petulance to it at times, especially online. Like, if you're like, I think this exchange was a great example. Like, why are you belittling me for disagreeing with you on the movie? You're upset, and that's hard to take seriously because you are now creating a different context than what it was said, and that's when the sentence structure becomes, the best defense is good offense of it all, because it's like, no, I was clear. I tweeted in perfect grammar. I tweeted it, spelled it out for you. I gave you an exact quote of what I was talking about. I defined the exact person I was talking about, the type, the this, the that. The larger conversation it's in. Don't change the thing. Don't invent a set of circumstances so it's about you. That's egocentric, upset nonsense. But then if we go over to,
but isn't that what Ricky Gervais says on every one of his specials about the word offend?
No,
almost verbatim.
I don't think so. I mean, like, I know what you're saying, but like, I think it's more what Stephen Fry has said on the same track, because Stephen Fry has also said being offended doesn't grant you a new set of rights. Right. Which is I think different than Gervais's overall points of like, don't be so. Gervais is don't be triggered. He's that type of guy.
Correct.
And I think there's different, because like I've been offended all the time. It offends me that I have to see people at my day job wearing, MAGA caps. That offends me. But if I brought it up to them, they would have I would understand that if they were like, why are you being so upset? That's upset. Okay. If I saw one of those people say something to a queer or person of color, that's different. That's hurt. And I think that like we have to be able to make lines, and it's a different line for everybody.
Right.
But you're upset that I lightly made fun of a point of discourse that's been going on for years. That was why I made fun of it, because it's been going on for years, and I gave my compliments to the work, and then said that something was boring. If boring to you is belittling when it's not even about you, then I have nothing for you. And I wish I did, but and maybe it's because this week feels suffocating that I'm like, look at the world, and you're upset that someone said a criticism was boring. That was your thing. That's the hill you wanted to die on.
But I don't think it's that. Yeah. Okay. I think again, if you keep walking in the bar pushing people, it's people like, stop pushing people in the bar. Don't. We want to drink.
Sure, but also don't log off then.
But don't you see my? But you, yeah, as I did, I have.
Yeah, not you. People in the bar.
I have,
not you on the outside of the bar. Like there he is in the bar.
But at some point you die a hero or live long enough to become Aaron Eckhart. Like I logged off more for the how do I say this? I logged off of Star Wars discourse more for the pro Star Wars people than the anti Star Wars people, if that makes sense. And I think people misunderstand that. Not saying you. I'm saying it wasn't the Last Jedi haters. It was the Last Jedi defenders that eventually made me go, I'm just done with all of this. And that's the point of view I'm just trying to introduce into your take on it.
No, and again, what you're saying is valid, and I acknowledge. I want to be on the record, straight into the heart, Cam. I want to acknowledge I like being a rabble rouser at times, but I look at the scale of everything, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I would like to also say I responded and was like, this is what I said, and then added even more context and got no reply. So like maybe it was wires, maybe ships in the night, wires crossed, whatever metaphor you want to use. But that to me, that was just a personal example.
Look, this is Uncle Ken trying to not even mentor you, just trying to hear you out.
No, I need to
ask you questions about, because I don't want you to be this angry. I want you to find love. I want you to find yourself. I want you to log off. How many? Let's answer the big question, because I mean in a positive way.
Sure.
Like how many times have I told you, don't do a 4-tweet thread about Bad Batch the next morning. Go write a script and do something with it. I mean, I've told you that a lot. Because I want. But then I want all of us to stop using social media for the water cooler stuff, which is not going to happen. Not going to happen.
No, and it's not. And that's the thing, is that like I don't even feel like, as I sit here now talking about this, I don't even feel anger. I more so feel resigned to nonsense, like resigned to silliness. Like I'm almost like it's never
syllable word and a 1-syllable life. I get it.
Yeah, and I just am sort of like it's a big thing with me overall. I've said this since I think middle school, at least high school. I'm very comfortable being disliked. My only caveat to that is I would like to be disliked accurately. Like, please, like, to me, the most relatable moment, relatable moment in all of the medium of theater to me is the fact that the fictionalized version of Alexander Hamilton, I'm saying the fictionalized version of Alexander Hamilton, I'm not comparing myself to that real man of his time. But when he was like, oh, no, I did this, but please just get it right. Like, I did these things. I own my mistake. But he's like, I did not embezzle or take that money. I did cheat. That to me was such a, like, if you want to be like, Alden said this, screenshot, what an asshole, I would be like, I said that. That is true. Yeah. But do not try to do because that happens too, especially in our line of work, of like, I'm sure you've had it, like Ken Knapsack, blasts this or thinks this. And it's like, no, just because I was on that or in that conversation or in the same topic that you're thinking or whatever, like, don't try to be like, he belittles people that just like, don't start with me. Don't start. Because I've been there. I've been there trying to be your fucking bastard of good faith, trying to make sure that people out there like what's his face, the Joe Rogan of Star Wars, isn't running the conversation. And yet whatever, like just like come down off the cross. We need the wood. And why do we need the wood? So we can make the campfire over here because this is not ending.
Okay, I want to get to some solutions. Sorry, I also have a meeting since.
You do.
I love this comment from our buddy Ken Plume, who's my age. I'm always concerned if what I say is hurting people. If a discourse doesn't start with empathy, then you're adding gasoline to a fire you're going to be fighting. Now, I'm not saying that's 100% accurate to everything you're talking about, but that is my answer. That is my answer when I look to a solution towards this. That is what and it's not a public-private thing. You know, privately, you're going to work through some anger. You know, that's why I get upset when talk about being disliked accurately. When people say Force Center is just everything is awesome crew and we only like things. Inaccurate. As you know, I really kind of dislike Ahsoka as a series. I think it's really bad in a lot of ways. But I don't just come out and say that like I did here, because on Force Center, we owe it to people to take in their perspectives and find the best way.
We got about 4 hours of peace before that clip comes back to haunt you.
Like, people know, and the Discord does. It just, I think there's bad acting. I think there's horrible directing. I think there's a lot of weird pacing issues with the plot moving forward. But we at Force Center don't hide that. We just lead with empathy. And that is my answer. Not saying it's yours. I'm saying that is my answer to trying to break some of these cycles.
Totally. And, you know, not to tell tales out of school, but like we've had the conversation of like, I'm sick of, you know, the pat on the head of like, well, you're so positive and everything. And
it's
like,
it drives me insane. Yeah, it drives me insane.
And it
so
drives
I
you
get
insane.
your point. I get your point about the.
Yeah.
I'm laughing a little bit because I wanted you to be saying that with a cigarette and a scarf and a beret in some Parisian cafe. I want
you
disliked
French
accurately.
French Ken.
French
with
Ken.
your experience would be able to teach me that.
2.5 days changed my worldview.
We should go back, man. We should go back.
I want to go back.
But you're right. Like if people went up to you, Joseph and Jennifer, and said, I really, really, really hate what you said about this, this, and this, and here's why. I think the three of you, knowing you guys, would be like, fair. But if they were like, by the way, you guys really undermined everybody intentionally by giving that. It's like, no, we didn't. That's not right.
Yeah. But you got, I try to, and there was some, like in the Force Center Discord during the middle of it, we were on strike and weren't talking, but like, I kind of hinted at like, some issues of the series and it upset some folks. And I had to understand why. But what I'm doing, Alden, is offering that is my solution and my answer to, are we online? Yeah. I look, some of my issues are people using, like I look every day in the Facebook memories because it's kind of entertaining, but I dread how I used social because we all did. I had a sandwich today. I had this today. Like that was the start of the downfall where keep it to yourself, stay offline, work through your stuff. But also, again, the caveat is, hey, being public about things. And, I have a podcast interview with my therapist that people still refer to as being valuable. So I wouldn't change that. But I'm just saying,
we chose this. We chose to be public facing.
That's also my platform. Anyways, that's my answer to it. Is leading with empathy is going to break any cycle of violence online for the discourse around anything I talk about.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying.
And
that's my solution.
I would like to.
I don't know your solution. What's your solution?
Well, my solution right now is going to be to bring up this funny review because I gotta fit it in. We have a few minutes left. On top of all this, I would like to say it's not always personal. I led with my personal example because it was topical and funny. I think it was funny. I had someone in my family, my mother, actually ask me about what the show was going to be this week, and I told them. I said, "Well, we're going to talk about the universities and Palestine, and then we're going to get into the internet." And she's like, do you ever think like you're taking the show to too much of a dark place or too much of a serious? And I just want to be clear. I'm having a great time. I think these conversations are fun, and Ken and I always talk shop. And so I don't want anyone to think
what I
like,
wanted to do. Yeah, I wanted to do.
Exactly.
This was my place to talk about that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. But this actually was something I screenshotted forever ago and forgot to introduce into the show because I just thought it was great. I blacked out this user's name. It's just someone I happen to have seen their review. I do not know this person, so it doesn't even matter. But this is what I'm talking about with the internet. We have right here a 2.5-star review of 1991's Father of the Bride. And this person wrote, the dad is so toxic, it's actually painful to watch. And at this point, I just have to know, and I mean this in the least personal, least incendiary way imaginable. I ask this with kindness. Did you get it? That's what I mean. Is that like, and this seems like a random thing to bring up after the personal example, maybe, but I think at the core of all of it, and I mean all of it, is this. We are lacking context almost entirely. You're telling me that the early 90s comedy where Steve Martin plays a dad who is grappling with his daughter getting married, that him being kind of toxic and ridiculous was made it a 2.5 star. I mean, you could dislike the movie, that's fine, but are we now like it's like that would be like listening to Kiss and being like, they're just talking about partying, and it's like kind of harmful. It's like, what? I don't know what to do with that. I don't know what to do. And if that's the internet, then
it's I mean, this is personal for me. That's one of my favorite movies. Steve Martin's one of my favorites. And yeah, he probably is. That's my thing about we're more aware of this stuff today. So you go back and see it. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. But it isn't the movie. Yeah, it's not. It's not even the point. It's just kind of the way it is. We all have those kind of traits, and it's an exploration. And in the end, he moves past it, right? And I think that's part of what your frustration is. And I remember seeing that. That went around online a bit, and I was very frustrated with it because it's like, watch the end. Watch the end of the movie. But yeah. I don't know how we change that. And this is where I told you, I tried to own this. I wagged my finger, not even your generation, the younger generation, a little bit on this so what are you going to do about it? Like, it's up to you to grow and change. It's not up for everyone else around you to do it. And I don't know how to fix that, but I try to just understand where lead with empathy publicly. Privately, I have some questions about what's going on in their mind.
Yeah, I do too. And I think that's what it is that maybe I need to approach online. I mean, to answer the overall thesis, we fucking are. We're too online.
We are.
And situations of all sorts. I mean, one of my favorite Ken Knapsack moments of all time was you absolutely fucking cooking someone that you used to work with. And I believe the line, "Take your medicine," was used. And it was
it's a quote from Young Guns 2, by the way. Take your medicine, son.
Which, with plug, there's a commentary for the original, right?
Yeah. On my Patreon page, I did a commentary for Young Guns. Going to do Young Guns 2 next month. I'm trying to pay rent here, people. Anyways,
but it's just like, so it's like, sometimes you got to lay it down. But maybe we should all be like, when someone speeds past you on the road, and you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe there's an emergency. Like, we should all maybe start to assume better.
It's that David Wallace. What's that? David Wallace speech, the water speech. Yeah. It became a thing.
Yeah. So it's difficult.
But we're all going to fail though, and because we can't. And you said something up top, and this is my way to kind of close it. Is I do think, and this goes to what I think is about the empathy and being understanding and I have this conversation with my pal Roger Craig Smith a lot. Like he's like never underestimate that we are not literally not physically wired for what's going on. We are not, and this is too much. Like that is not just the thing being online. Online is too much, and it's too much for us to process and deal with it. And that leads to what seems like sometimes hypocritical actions, or me, someone as an older person trying to explain, wow, why do you feel that's toxic, and how do you work through it? Also, fix it, go to therapy, work on it, take a pill, not my problem. I have these two devils and angels inside me.
Right.
And that triggered me. I can't, I'm living my day. Go fix yourself. Like, but then I'll come back and be like, all right, but let's talk about it.
Even in this conversation, I feel like I've had that. I went from I'm not fucking responsible for your read to maybe I need to assume better.
Yes.
So it's like,
yes.
Even in this was more effective than therapy. I actually will be Venmoing Ken. Yeah,
Please, I need $385 by Monday.
We got to wrap it up, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
we'll continue to unpack this for sure.
No, but I think but again, and everyone's making the joke too, especially at the front, like up top, like the answer is yes, but the answer is also we can't get off of it. Right, like I have a stand-up bit. I'm trying to work, and one day I'll do it because I just don't have time to concentrate on my bits. But it's like I get mad sometimes when people say you're on your phone too much. It's like my phone. You mean my banking account? You mean my communication device? You mean my map? You mean my weather? You mean my entire life that they've put on this thing? Yeah, I'm on it a lot. Yeah.
I live a lot. I work a lot.
Yeah. What do you want me to do? But I think it's important to. This is something close to the heart of Scrimshaw of fight for humanity, and sometimes that humanity does include touching grass, literally. Yeah. It's an insult. It's a dumb insult, but it's also true. We all needed, even with what you're talking about, you're seriously affected by the stuff going on this week, as you should. Go have a frozen yogurt and walk in a park. Do it.
Amen. My closing thought is, at the end of the video game X-Men Legends 2 Apocalypse that I played on the original Xbox, Magneto says to Xavier, "The world needs realists to keep it alive." And Professor X responds, "But it needs dreamers to give it a soul." And I somehow feel like that is relevant to all of these topics.
It is. We don't have a pop rock award wisdom there. We're going to play Generations. We're going to do Generations next week. I have, it's a reality. I have this. It's a cool writing job for a YouTube channel, but we have weekly meetings I got to get to, and it's important, and I got to go. So that cuts a little bit of any time short. That's the reality is where we're at. But I'm going to keep dreaming, Alden, so that I can bring soul to stuff. I don't know, but I like what you said. That is it for this week, Alden. Thank you, man. This is serious stuff. Serious stuff in the world, and it's okay, and we're going to get through it, and don't want you to lose hope. I also don't want you to burn with anger, but I don't want you to lose hope, buddy.
Look, man, I didn't have a dad, but I got a knapsack. I did all right.
That's horrendous. Oh, man. All right, that's it. Bye-bye.